So Taylor Swift got married in Madison Square Garden on basically the eve of America's 250th birthday, and shut down a bunch of streets in New York. Had a big jumbotron as soon as they said "I do," broadcast that TNT just married, whatever. And basically, like, the wedding was like a huge spectacle. Tons of fans were standing outside, hoping to get a glimpse of the celebrities and whatever. Okay. And here's the thing, like, you guys have been asking for this video, so I will make this video and I will tell you guys what I think. But I also want to start off by saying, like, by all accounts, including my favorite tarot reader, Aphrodite, she was happy that day, right? And so everything I'm saying is just my opinion. I am fully open to the idea that this was her perfect wedding and this is what she wants and everything feels ideal, okay? That said, regardless of that, there are aspects of this that feel genuinely kind of sad to me. And I do want to talk about that. So I'm going to. But just know that I'm married. Marriage is hard and marriage is kind of sacred. So I don't really want to be taking a dump on her wedding. And I hope that that's not how this comes across. But with all that said, let's get started. Taylor Swift got married at Madison Square Garden to Travis Kelce. And as soon as they got married, a lavender marquee went up that said TNT just married, okay? Literally, Taylor Swift basically gets married at Madison Square Garden in the middle of New York, shuts down the streets for like 3 days, has the NYPD doing all kinds of security, which may or may not end up being a taxpayer bill, and announces things on a jumbotron. This whole thing screams of media spectacle to draw as much attention as humanly possible. Obviously, I think the easy critique is that getting married at Madison Square Garden is incredibly tacky. Because it is. Okay, baby, it is incredibly tacky. But I think that there's a lot more to say to it than that. Someone DM'd me and said, well, you should know that Taylor Swift's life could be in danger, and so she had to get married at Madison Square Garden where she had maximum security and it's a venue that she's familiar with, and it was necessary in order for her to keep herself safe. Girl, are you good? Like, are you good? That argument does not make any sense. There are many ways for celebrities to generate security, one of which is privacy, right? By having everything completely locked down, sealed up, by getting married in secret and then having us find out after the fact. Taylor Swift wanted to get married in the middle of New York City at Madison Square Garden where everybody knew what was happening because she wanted everybody to know what was happening. And by having everyone know what's happening, she generates a security risk. And that's why she needs an ultra secure venue. That is a self-generated problem. So it is not about security. She did not pick MSG because it's the only place that she could secure. That is patently and blatantly false, okay? Honestly, what I think is that she picked MSG because I think it's spectacle as a manufactured reality. And what do I mean by that, right? Basically, I think the bigger you make the wedding, the more lights and glamour and lights you put on it, the more people are watching it, the more people have to digest and witness it and see it, the more real I think to her that it actually becomes. It creates the scale somehow is, I think, a stand-in for legitimacy. Because the bigger you make it, the more real it has to be, right, guys? Right? Making something so big that everybody witnesses, it kind of is meant to drown out the narrative that this relationship is only PR. Basically creating something that is so big, so enormous, questioning it in any way, shape, or form feels kind of absurd. And also, her withholding information is very much part of the same machine. No photos, no details, no one's seen the dress yet, no nothing. Like, and that is not because she wants to value her privacy and protect what is sacred. It is honestly because she wants to keep people hungry, keep the public's face pressed up against the glass, trying to look in, create a sense of FOMO, which creates even more obsession, even more fixation, even more talk. So when she starts dripping the material through to us, bit by bit, we're hungry for all the little scraps that we can even get. One of the most absurd things I saw in the discourse about this wedding, I saw somebody tweet something really absurd that really they sent me. They said, is this how people felt when Princess Diana got married? Oh my God. I literally, I could not with that, okay? But I truly would not have been surprised if that's a narrative that came from the Swift camp themselves, right? Because obviously that's exactly the type of thing that they wanted to produce. That's exactly the type of conversation they want to generate. Because in America, we don't have royalty. We have brands. And this was a massive brand merger, a merger of the biggest pop star in the world and the NFL together, now merging their power to, maximize their joint slay or whatever. But the thing is that I really think it's crazy that people are calling this a royal wedding, girl. I really can't with that, okay? Because royal weddings borrow from centuries of tradition. It has a gravitas that cannot be bought by putting yourself in the middle of Madison Square Garden. Ultimately, what this is something that is quite the opposite. There's nothing elegant about it. Quite frankly, I think for a lot of us, it gives us the ick. The thing though that I think is the most painful or sad or notable about all of this is that if you look at Taylor Swift's body of work over the past 20 years, the center of her body of work is the search for love. Finding it, losing it, autopsying it, mythologizing it. That is the central fascination of the Taylor Swift brand. But underneath that search for love has always been a quieter search, which is a search for herself. You see her running that experiment in real time. And I think the Joe Alwyn part of her life was the clearest version of that experiment, right? Basically, she retreated from the public eye. It's basically a question: can love, art, and identity really exist behind a closed door? Is that enough for her? And I think the answer was that it wasn't, right? And so that relationship failed. And then subsequently, her relationship with Maddie Healy failed as well. I think that ultimately, Taylor has picked the direct diametric opposite response in response to all of that. I think she's basically decided, well, if it's not possible for me to exist behind closed door because I'm that hungry for spectacle and hungry for fame, why not lean into it fully and become the biggest spectacle that I could possibly become? And I think part of the issue that Taylor Swift has to do with her family. Taylor Swift's family is an integral part of her brand. Like, the Taylor Swift enterprise is ultimately a family business, an incredibly powerful family business, but a family business nonetheless. But part of normal human development is individuation away from the family. You need to differentiate yourself from your family of origin and figure out exactly who you are. Sit in a quiet room, away from all the outside voices, and figure out who you are and what your identity is without the input of the people who literally created you. Taylor Swift has never had the opportunity really to do that because she's basically been a commodity since she was a teenager and being told who she is both by the public but also by her family and her brand as well. Her parents have had a huge stake in the Taylor Swift TM enterprise for the majority of her adult life. And I think that because of that, Taylor has struggled to develop a true sense of self. You see Taylor talk about that in a song like Mirrorball, which is one of the most, again, folklore represents her highest level of insight, that she ever had in self-discovery. I'll do anything to keep you laughing at me, right? Where literally what she is a reflection of the projections that people put onto her. And I think that those projections refer to both the projections of the public, but also what happens in private of her parents and of her desire to please, but daddy, I love him, like to please her dad and her family and the brand and the stockholder. I think that Taylor Swift has always struggled with, where does Taylor Swift, the brand and the person begin? I think that what I see with this whole MSG wedding thing is that I think she stopped asking. And I think that that is the most troubling thing about all this, okay? And here's the thing. There are people who will tell you that Taylor Swift was always a corporate shell, right? A hollow shell. She was always just like this fame-hungry person who never really had a real interior life and nothing ever mattered because nothing ever mattered to her, right? And I don't personally believe that though. I think that the truth is actually much sadder. I actually think that there was a person inside that Taylor Swift TM brand. But I think that right now, I don't think that she's looking for that person inside the Taylor Swift TM anymore. I think that she basically has decided that if the poison to all my relationships is the fame, why not make that into the cure? Why not marry someone just as obsessed with fame and the spotlight as I am and make this entire thing into a massive spectacle? Because inside that Madison Square Garden stadium is kind of a hollow core because she stopped looking anymore. And I think it shows up in the work, right? That's why Life of a Showgirl is the way it is. And that's why I think that this wedding truly for a lot of us was shocking, like shocking and unbelievable. I think a lot of us were like, this actually cannot be real, but it is real because I think that for her right now, the fame, the spotlight, the eyes, that everyone constantly talking about is the only thing that is real. And I think that that is why she has never stepped back from the spotlight for any period of time ever since the Eras Tour. Because I think at the Eras Tour, that is when she was fully able to silence her inner voice in favor of the spectacle, in favor of the scale. And I think that that is kind of sad, to be honest. And sure, maybe I'm wrong, right? Some people think that her getting married at Madison Square Garden was romantic because, it's somewhere where both of them work. And maybe it's a celebration of everything the two of them are. And yeah, girl, maybe that is it. Maybe after 20 years of music and the search for love, the fairy tale ending really is a corporate brand activation in a major sports arena. The culmination of the entire Taylor Swift love story is a corporate merger, a media strategy and spectacle for all of New York City to see on the eve of America's 250th birthday on one of the busiest weekends in America. Maybe that really is the love, the great love that she was always looking for. But to me, honestly, I feel if this is her happily ever after, it truly does feel hollow to me. It feels like the front-facing persona, the thing that the audience is consuming and dissecting, has basically fully devoured whatever private life may have existed behind closed doors. And I think that that is kind of a tragedy in a sense. I feel like it's resignation. I feel like it's like, if fame destroys everything that matters to me, Why not lean into it and throw yourself into the machine whole scale and allow it to consume you? Because maybe that's all that really matters. Maybe the only real Taylor Swift that exists is the Taylor Swift on stage at places like Madison Square Garden or, SoFi Arena. Maybe that's who she is deep down. Because, I mean, she found a man who, quite frankly, it feels like that's all he is, Maybe that's all there really needs to be. And all those questions that she was asking before, she doesn't need to keep asking herself. I think that she's done a lot to kind of quiet those voices on the inside. But the thing is that the natural progression of fame is to hollow things out. Fame is an inherently consumptive process. It takes and takes and takes and chips and chips and chips and shaves away the human being until all there is the construct that is projected upon and that is created by the masses. And I think that Taylor has given up trying to protect whatever human was left because of her desire for that light, that pedestal, to be that number one. And I think the fear of what happens to her thoughts when she quiets down and closes the door. So what we got was a marquee wedding in the middle of New York City on the eve of American's 250th birthday, and $1 million worth of NYPD security and the manufactured scale of all of it. All we got was the opulence and the scale. And maybe that's all that's really real, because the human being inside all of it has become optional or obsolete. That feels tragic to me. But, once again, maybe I'm wrong. The gray area is where the truth lives. Come with me next time and I'll see you there. Bye, y'all.